I'm gay. My sister's a lesbian. Our mom has tried everything to fix our orientations. Finally, the day I broke up with him, my sister brought home her boyfriend. Mom was overjoyed, tears in her eyes. She didn't know. That night, while she was fast asleep, her beloved son-in-law quietly slipped into my room, his voice low, aggrieved. Baby, why did you break up with me? Welcome to He History channel. Subscribe to follow all our latest adventures. Story begins. The man my sister brought home was none other than Charles Newton, the ex I had just broken up with that morning. Dark skin, athlete, pure muscle. And now, he was acting like an oversized puppy, pressing me into his chest, rubbing against me shamelessly. I pounded on his rock-hard pecs. It was like punching a slab of steel. Damn it, I snapped, annoyed. Shouldn't I be the one asking why you're hooking up with my sister? I'm not. I didn't. Don't talk nonsense, Charles blurted out in rapid denial. You dumped me so suddenly. I just wanted an explanation. I tried coming over, but security wouldn't let me in. So I waited outside, and that's when I ran into your sister. She said she'd take me to see you, and I didn't think it'd turn out like this. They'd never met before. But back when we first started dating, I had shown my sister a photo of Charles Newton. She'd laughed and said he looked like the kind of guy who could punch me dead 9 times over. Said he gave her the creeps just looking at him. And yet the moment we broke up, she marched him straight into our house. Our mom was thrilled, thought my sister had finally gone straight, and chirped something about a double blessing with tears in her eyes. Meanwhile, I stood there, completely dumbfounded. Charles seemed displeased by my blank stare. With his big, calloused hand, he gently cupped my face, trying to force a response. Just 2 days ago, we were still. That was my first time, he added quietly. You can't just pretend it meant nothing. My face immediately darkened. Neither of us had any experience. From the first kiss onward, it had been pure chaos. He'd gone at it like some untrained beast, all instinct and no finesse. There was no tenderness in my first time, just pain. Agonizing, breath-stealing pain. I'd been laid up in bed for 2 days, still sore. If that didn't call for a breakup, what was I supposed to do? Wait until he actually killed me in bed? I gave him a withering look. You're just bad in bed. Where's Charles? Still sleeping, my mom asked at breakfast. It was just me and my sister at the table, eating in awkward silence. She was clearly worried he'd gotten cold feet and run off. They'd only met yesterday, and she'd already started urging him to set a wedding date. Said she didn't want to drag things out. My sister glanced sideways at me, frowning slightly. He's still asleep? He wasn't with you? Just 7 words, but they said everything. What are you two whispering about now? Mom asked, suspicious. I quickly said, I saw Charles, my brother-in-law, leave this morning. Said he had work. Total lie. The truth was, right after I told Charles Newton he was terrible in bed, he left like a man whose soul had been crushed. Guess his ego couldn't take it. Mom didn't press further. She took a sip of her bird's nest soup and cheerfully added, You two are coming with me to the temple today. I need to return a prayer. Buddha really answers prayers, doesn't he? My sister and I exchanged a look, resigned, helpless. After paying respects, Mom dragged us over to see a fortune teller near the temple. My sister and I lagged behind, chatting quietly. Then we heard our mom huff loudly, I have a perfect son and daughter, thank you very much. You're cursed. Your whole family's cursed. The old master had made a complicated expression, raised one finger, and bent it slightly. Is it possible that this is what's going on? Mom rolled her eyes and snapped, The gods already fixed them, okay? Don't start with your nonsense. Just yesterday, my daughter brought home a boyfriend. I couldn't take it anymore. I slipped out of the temple hall and wandered off on my own. Eventually I found myself near the holash, where red silk ribbons fluttered from the trees. Each one bore wishes, predestined love, career success. I stared up at them, suddenly overwhelmed with melancholy. Before I met Charles Newton, I thought I liked calm, refined, mature men. And yet, Charles was the exact opposite of my type. He came from a mountain village. Parents gone. Raised by a retired MMA fighter who'd seen potential in him and taken him under his wing. At just 23, he was already the reigning UFC light heavyweight champion. I met him after one of his matches. He had just KO'd his opponent, his body slick with sweat, muscles gleaming under the stadium lights, like a wild beast fresh from battle. I handed him a bottle of water on impulse. He took it, tilted his head back, drank. His Adam's apple bobbed with each gulp, sweat tracing down his jaw. Then he looked down at me. His eyes, dark, bright, burning, held mine. "Thanks," he said. That voice, low, rough, a little hoarse. My heart skipped a beat. He asked for my number later, fumbled through asking me to dinner, to movies. And then one thing led to another. "What are you thinking about?" That familiar voice snapped me out of my daze. I looked up in shock. Charles Newton was standing right in front of me. Solid. Blocking out the sunlight. His eyes, as always, dark and brilliant. "Coach always gets me a protective charm before every match," Charles Newton said with a sheepish smile, opening his palm. A tiny embroidered amulet sat quietly in his hand. It read, "Certain Victory." Again with the "certain victory." I frowned. Charles mistook my expression for irritation and immediately dropped the smile. "Sorry. I'll get out of your sight." I tugged at his sleeve. "Wait here." He looked puzzled, but obediently stayed put. When I returned, I shoved a different charm into his hand. This one didn't say victory. It said safe return. He wished for victory. Coach wished for victory. Every fan out there was praying for his win. But me? I just wanted him safe. Last month, I watched him get injured in the ring. It haunted me. For a whole month, I dreamed of him dying in the octagon, right in front of me. I was terrified those dreams would come true. I desperately wanted to leave something behind with him. That's why I'd taken the initiative that night. Never thought the experience would hurt like hell. Charles Newton stared at the charm in his hand. His Adam's apple bobbed. Then, without warning, he dragged me into the grove and pinned me up against the thick trunk of a tree. "What the hell are you doing?" "Baby." His voice was hoarse, nearly breaking. "I did some research. Even asked our team doctor. This time, I promise it won't hurt." My ears lit on fire. "You asked the team doctor about that?" "Yeah, he actually looked a bit wronged. He said I was too reckless, that I might hurt you." I kicked him. "Charles Newton, do you even have a sense of shame?" He didn't budge. Just leaned in closer. "Nope. I only want you." That shameless line caught me so off guard, I was speechless. Just as I opened my mouth to curse him out, my sister's voice floated from behind. "Are you two filming a soap opera or something?" I pushed him away in a panic, but he grabbed my wrist again. "I'm coming to see you tonight," he whispered into my ear. "Let me prove it, okay?" On the ride home, Mom kept glancing at me suspiciously. "What happened to your lips? Why are they swollen?" I nearly dropped my phone. "Mosquito bite." My sister chuckled with barely concealed amusement. "Must be a vicious temple mosquito. One bit me right on the eye." I shut up. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Charles Newton, open the door." I pretended to be asleep. There was no way he improved that fast in just one day. No way. All I could think about was how my ass had ached for 2 full days afterward. Nope. I decided we were better off never seeing each other again. Then another message came. "Charles Newton, if you don't open up, I'm knocking." I shot up like a fish out of water and ran barefoot to the door. He slipped inside. I dragged him into the bedroom, hissing, "Are you insane? My mom's in the next room." He scooped me up like it was nothing and walked straight to the bed. "Then you'll have to keep it down. Baby, I swear. This time I'll make you feel good." Turns out, Charles Newton hadn't been lying. He was still clumsy, but significantly better. He'd finally learned about preparation. Under his hands, I got swept up in the moment. When I couldn't help letting out a whimper, a sharp knock hit the door. "George? You okay?" came Mom's voice. My whole body froze. Charles Newton, that bastard, had the audacity to keep moving. I bit down on his shoulder hard, eyes tearing up. "Jay, just a nightmare," I croaked, forcing my voice steady. "I'm fine. Go back to sleep." I collapsed against him, drenched in cold sweat. He finally stopped. In the darkness, I could feel his heated gaze on my face. I opened my mouth to curse again. But then his thumb gently brushed away the tear at the corner of my eye. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I rushed you again." He carefully withdrew and pulled the covers over both of us. This time he just held me. Nothing more. The tension ebbed away, replaced by something else. Relief. Fatigue. And a twinge of disappointment. Validation failed, I muttered. His chin rested against the top of my head as he chuckled low. "Then next time, let's find somewhere absolutely safe." But I wasn't lying, right? I did better. Just a little? He sounded like a dog waiting for praise. "A little," I admitted begrudgingly. If we hadn't been interrupted, it really would have felt different. Realizing that made my ears heat up again. Early next morning, before anyone else was awake, I tiptoed to push Charles out the door. Turned around and screamed. My sister was floating behind me like a ghost, eyes wide. "Shit! Can you not walk like a damn shadow?" "Oh please," she rolled her eyes. "You two were practically making out with hearts in your eyes. Don't blame me for catching you in the act." I flushed. She crossed her arms. "You've got guts, I'll give you that." Sneaking around under Mom's nose. Was it exciting? It wasn't sneaking around, I tried. Yeah, keep telling yourself that. There really wasn't. We didn't even get that far. Mom interrupted. I fumbled, face flushed red with embarrassment. My sister stared at me blankly for a moment, then burst out laughing, clutching her stomach. At breakfast, Mom brought it up again, asking what nightmare I had that made me cry out like that in my sleep. I stared her dead in the eye and lied through my teeth. I dreamt this huge black dog was chasing me. I was scared out of my mind. Mom seemed thoughtful. They say black dogs ward off evil. Dreaming of one's supposed to be good luck. Means someone's watching over you, protecting you from harm. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she turned to my sister. "See? Charles must be the lucky star. Ever since he showed up, even George's nightmares are full of protective black dogs. He's clearly bringing good fortune to our family. Belle, you two should just set a date and get married already." My sister looked like she wanted to disappear into her bowl of porridge. She muttered under her breath. "That big black dog's bringing luck to your son. What's that got to do with me?" Mom, terrified of losing her precious new son-in-law, started hounding my sister every other day to invite Charles Newton over for dinner. Later that night, I mentioned it during a video call with Charles. The moment the words left my mouth, his eyes lit up like a dog spotting a bone. "George, does this mean you're going to make us official?" The raw hope in his voice hit me like a gut punch. I felt like the world's most cowardly scumbag. "It's just dinner. A normal dinner." I couldn't meet his eyes. On the screen, I watched the light in his gaze dim by the second. Even his stiff, bristly hair seemed to droop with disappointment. "All right." He paused, then added, "I've got a major match coming up, though. Training's pretty intense right now." "That's okay," I said quickly. "We'll wait until after the match." Truth was, I still hadn't figured out how to come clean to Mom. And I definitely didn't want Charles Newton to keep pretending to be my sister's boyfriend. It wasn't fair to anyone. On match day, I went backstage to find him, just like always. He had just come out of the ring after a brutal fight, his body soaked in sweat, bruises blooming across his cheekbone and lip. I handed him water and a towel, gently wiping the sweat from his brow. My chest ached, tight and sour, like something invisible was squeezing the air out of me. He grinned at me, teeth bright white beneath the bruises. "Don't worry, baby. It doesn't hurt." There he went again, always brushing off his injuries like they were nothing. Like pain didn't matter. My blood boiled. I pressed the towel harder against a cut on his face. "Doesn't hurt, huh?" "Baby, not so hard." "It does hurt." He yelped and pulled away like a kicked puppy. "Charles." Calm, composed male voice cut through the moment. It was James Bennett, the son of the club's main investor. I'd seen him a few times. Always immaculately dressed in tailored suits, gold-rimmed glasses perched on his nose. His gaze was sharp, cool, detached, and elite in every sense. "James," Charles nodded. "Coach Williams is looking for you," James said. "There are some tactical details from the match he wants to review." Charles gave me an apologetic smile. "George, wait for me in the lounge, okay?" He turned and walked off. Just as I was about to follow, James stepped sideways and blocked my path. "Mr. Horton," he said politely, "a word?" I had never liked him. From the moment we met, there was a barely disguised hostility in his eyes. But I had no idea what I'd ever done to offend him. "Whatever you have to say," I replied, "you can say it here." He pushed his glasses up. "Then I'll be direct. I want you to leave Charles." What? I thought I'd misheard him. Until he said it again, clear as day. "Break up with him?" My brow furrowed. Why the hell would I? James's voice stayed calm, almost indifferent. "You're not good for him. You contribute nothing to his career. In fact, you're a liability. A distraction. A weakness. Do you know how he got that injury last month?" I stiffened. Injuries are part of a fighter's life, yes. But that one wasn't from the ring. I looked into it. He got it protecting you during a street altercation the night before his match. He stepped into the cage already hurt. That's why he came out looking like roadkill. James's voice grew colder with each word. And with them, memories surged up. Charles, covered in blood, being stretchered off the mat. A nightmare I still hadn't recovered from. My whole body shook. That idiot. He lied to me. He'd smiled and said he was fine. It happened a month ago. I'd gotten harassed by a group of drunk men outside a bar. Charles had shown up just in time and thrown himself between me and a swinging metal rod. I was terrified. Dragged him straight to the... While the doctor examined him, he kept whining about being thirsty until I finally went to get water. When I came back, he grinned like nothing happened. Told me it was just a scratch. The doctor hadn't said anything either. So I believed him. But now I knew better. The injury was far worse than he let on. James Bennett looked at me with icy eyes. "If you truly care about him, you'll do what's right and walk away." Maybe he was right. Maybe I was his weakness. But just because some outsider said a few condescending words, I wasn't going to spiral into guilt and perform some noble self-sacrificing exit. That would be insulting to both our feelings. I wouldn't leave Charles. Not unless he asked me to. Leave him? I laughed coldly. Your family might sponsor this club, but that doesn't give you the right to meddle in Charles Newton's personal life. And with that, I turned and walked away. The sky had grown dark. I waited outside the arena tunnel for Charles Newton. The moment he emerged, his eyes found me instantly. "George." He always took the longest possible stride toward me. Said he wanted to see me 1 second faster, every time. "Charles Newton, you big dumb dog." I yanked him down by the collar and kissed him hard. He froze for a split second, then kissed me back. Fierce, breathless. When we finally broke apart, his breathing was uneven, but his eyes sparkled like stars. "Baby, what's going on?" I knew James Bennett was watching somewhere nearby. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught the stiff silhouette of his perfectly tailored suit. I looked Charles straight in the eyes, "I'm not letting go." Charles smiled like an idiot, confused but happy. He squeezed my hand tightly. "Then don't." "I won't either." That night, Charles Newton insisted on validating his skills again. I'll admit, once a man figures it out, he becomes dangerously addictive. Can you not leave bite marks all over me? How am I supposed to face people like this? I kicked him, annoyed. His rock-solid thighs didn't budge. Instead, he caught my ankle and gently rubbed his thumb across the reddened skin. "My bad. I'll be careful next time." The pause. "And if I'm not, pretend I didn't say that." I punched him a few more times. He didn't flinch. My hand, on the other hand, started to hurt. He caught my wrist, distressed, and rubbed it carefully. "Baby, if you're mad, just tell me. I'll hit myself, No need for you to hurt your hand. You idiot. He pulled me into his arms, resting his chin on the top of my head. Baby, will you move in with me? I want to wake up and see you every day. My heart skipped. Before I could respond, he rushed to add, no pressure. Take your time. If you don't want to, that's totally fine. I'm just happy holding you like this. Listening to his voice get lower and lower, I suddenly squinted up at him and pinched his chin. Wait a second. You're a UFC fighter. Where the hell did you learn all these cheesy lines? Charles Newton laughed, pure and dumb. When it comes to you, I'm self-taught. A few days later, Dad came home early from a business trip with VIP tickets to a UFC match. One glance at the lineup and Mom lit up. Hey, isn't that our son-in-law? She immediately decided the whole family should go and cheer him on. Since it was a last-minute decision, I didn't get the chance to tell Charles Newton in advance. When he saw all four of us in the stands, his eyes locked onto mine, and his grin nearly split his face in half. He must have thought this was it. This was finally me giving him a place, a title, a yes. In that moment, something surged in my chest. Maybe it was time. Of course, Charles Newton took the win. Easily. He lifted the medal and turned to our section, eyes shining as he held it high for me to see. After the match, we invited him to dinner. Mom and Dad asked all about his life, family, childhood, upbringing. When they found out he was orphaned young and raised by a retired coach, their hearts practically broke. Charles, though, had already figured out I wasn't planning to come out yet. He didn't say anything, but even his imaginary tail looked like it was dragging along the floor. I nudged his hand under the table. He squeezed it back. When we got home, Mom grabbed my sister's hand and whispered lovingly, Belle, when you two get married, you have to be good to him, okay? And right then, a cool, clipped female voice cut through the night. Married? We turned to see a woman in uniform standing by the building entrance, tall and striking, holding a bouquet of bright red roses. Kate Nielsen, my sister's girlfriend. You're back. My sister froze for a beat, then beamed, then panicked. It's not what it sounds like. They're making stuff up. He's not my boyfriend. I don't want to marry him. I've only ever loved you. That public declaration sent my parents spiraling. Mom yanked my sister's hand. What? Who is she? And what exactly is going on between you and Charles? Dad quickly grabbed her. Come down, honey, breathe. Instant chaos. And in that glorious, explosive mess, I realized this was divine timing. Let it all blow up. I rose onto my toes and pressed a kiss to Charles Newton's lips. What? Charles Newton is my boyfriend. Charles Newton. Wavy dash. Mom. Dad. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then Mom's eyes rolled back and she swayed. Sweetheart. Dad barely caught her in time and fumbled to press her philtrum. She groaned, eyes unfocused. Tony, I think I just hallucinated. Dad's face was complicated. You didn't. She paused. Closed her eyes again. Nope. Gonna pass out again. Not ready. Dad, ever the supportive spouse, replied, okay. And promptly scooped her up bridal style and marched her upstairs. We all went upstairs. My parents shut themselves in the master bedroom. No one knew whether they were hugging it out or mourning their expectations. Charles Newton shifted anxiously beside me and nudged my arm. I'm sorry. What are you apologizing for? I think your mom might have been a little too shocked. I shook my head. I knew my mom. She loved us more than she loved any rule, tradition, or social norm. To her, our health and happiness mattered far more than something as trivial as sexual orientation. What mattered was whether we found someone who would truly love and protect us. That was the reason my sister and I had always had the courage to come out. We knew our mom might need time, but in the end, if it was for our happiness, she would accept it. She would always come around. Because our parents, they love us more than anyone else in the world. I cupped Charles Newton's face in both hands and looked straight into his eyes. Charles Newton, I love you. And because of that, they'll love you too. He blinked, eyes misty. What kind of home do you have to grow up in to be this brave? You'll see for yourself, I smiled, tightening my grip on his hand. Because one day my family would be his family too. Meanwhile, my sister was still frantically explaining the misunderstanding to Kate Nielsen. Once things were cleared up, Kate turned to Charles Newton. So, you're Belle's brother-in-law? Charles instantly straightened up like a soldier reporting to a general. Yes, ma'am. Then he hesitated and cautiously asked, should I call you sis-in-law? I nearly choked. Just call her Kate, I said awkwardly. Hi, Kate. I'm Charles Newton. Kate gave a subtle nod and then glanced at me. Honestly, I was a little afraid of her. She came from a long line of military officers in Beijing. A troublemaker since childhood, too wild to handle, her family finally threw her into the army to be straightened out. Word was, the one thing she couldn't stand was fragile, weepy types. Which, unfortunately, described my sister perfectly: pampered, delicate, scared of pain, cried at the drop of a hat. Basically a porcelain doll. To this day, I still had no idea how those two ended up together. In her military uniform, with that sharp aura, Kate was pure intimidation. Every time I saw her, I instinctively stood straighter and tried not to breathe too loud. I heard you're into MMA, she said, turning to Charles Newton. We should spar sometime. You fight too. Charles blinked. A little, she said blandly. I used to teach hand-to-hand combat in the Special Forces. I quietly scooted behind my sister. Yup, definitely more terrifying now. But Charles Newton had never been shy a day in his life. In no time, he was getting along with Kate like they were old friends. The rest of us chatted casually. On the surface, it looked calm. But all our eyes kept flicking toward my parents' bedroom. Finally, the door opened. Dad helped Mom out of the room. She looked grim. George Horton. Isabella Horton. You two, come here. Charles Newton and Kate Nielsen stepped forward instantly, shielding us like bodyguards. Auntie, I was the one who chased George shamelessly. It's all my fault. Auntie, Belle and I really love each other. We're serious. Mom stared at them for a moment before saying, you too, come here. Mom, my sister and I stepped up. Mom let out a breath, somewhere between annoyed and amused. Do I look that terrifying to you? That fortune teller was right. I do have a perfect son and daughter, and apparently I'm doomed to never have grandkids. Neither of us dared speak. All right, she waved us off. Move it. I have questions. In the end, it was Charles and Kate who went in with her. My sister and I were left standing outside, ear to the door. We could just barely make out the muffled voices inside. But we couldn't hear clearly. When Charles came out, his eyes were red. I pulled him into my room and shut the door. What did they say? Your mom and dad, they're better than I imagined, he said, smiling through tears. Your mom told me this is my home now too. She said I should come over often for dinner. He said it with a bright, beaming smile, but those tear-filled eyes made my chest ache. I reached up and ruffled his hair. Obviously. You're my boyfriend. This is your home. He grabbed my hand and pressed it to his cheek, rubbing against it like a puppy. Our home, he said. The next morning, Charles Newton and Kate Nielsen got up early to go grocery shopping with my mom at the wet market. Apparently, it caused quite a stir. Mom led the way with her hands clasped behind her back, slowly picking through vegetables. On one side of her, a dark-skinned, muscle-bound athlete with eyes sharp as blades. On the other, a tall, commanding female officer in uniform. Wherever they went, vendors gave automatic discounts. No one dared to short the scale or overcharge. Mom had never felt so powerful shopping for produce. Her mood was so good, she grabbed each of them by the hand and practically skipped through the stalls, like they were her real children. That afternoon, Kate left for the base. Mom saw her off like a reluctant grandmother. My sister sighed beside me. Looks like we've been replaced, little bro. Mom doesn't love us anymore. I rolled my eyes. Childish. Then came the punishment. Kate Nielsen really should have seen how this fragile, spoiled, couldn't open a water bottle woman twisted her little brother into a pretzel in 5 seconds flat. Once Kate returned to the army, Charles's training entered a critical phase. His next opponent was known for his brutal style and for having a terrible reputation in the ring. I started having nightmares again. Night after night, I dreamt of him being carried out of the ring, soaked in blood. One night, I woke up gasping. I shook Charles awake and told him about the dreams. I curled into his chest. "You have to come back safe, okay?" He stroked my hair gently. "Don't worry. For you, I'll come back whole." But my heart still felt uneasy. He kissed the top of my head. "You always get nightmares before my matches." "Because I worry about you." "I know. But I promise, after this, you won't have to anymore." "What do you mean?" Charles adjusted our positions and rolled on top of me. "I'll tell you after." "That sounds ominous." He grinned. "Let's just say, it's a surprise." He stopped my question with a kiss. Some premonitions are always too accurate. First, Kate Nielsen went missing during an operation. My sister ignored every attempt to stop her and insisted on going after her. Then, during a match, Charles Newton's opponent broke the rules, and Charles ended up badly hurt. Fractured ribs, mild concussion, internal bruising. No threat to his life, thank God, but still. The man lying in that hospital bed was nothing like the lively, unstoppable fighter I knew. His face was pale. His lips, dry and cracked. He lay still and silent, stripped of all that restless energy. "You dumb dog. Hurry up and wake up already?" The string of accidents hit my parents hard. "George, we need to talk." They called me into the hallway outside his ward. One look at their serious expressions, and my heart tightened. I could already imagine what they were going to say, that they wanted me to break up with Charles Newton before things got worse. But Mom spoke first. "Charles Newton's a good kid. He really loves you. His job's dangerous, sure, but he's young and ambitious, and that's a good thing." Then her tone hardened. But this time, I saw it with my own eyes. This wasn't a normal injury. Someone wanted him dead. She exhaled shakily, eyes red. "And your sister, Kate's a soldier. We respect that, we honor it. But now she's missing. Belle doesn't even know if she's alive. She's out there searching blindly, sick with worry. You think your sister can live like that, always waiting, always terrified?" Tears welled in her eyes. "George, I'm not narrow-minded. I'm just scared. If one day Charles gets hurt again, if something worse happens, what are you going to do? What Belle's going through now might be your future." Dad's voice joined hers, low and grave. "Your mother's right. Love is important, but life is still life. The career paths they chose come with risk and uncertainty. As parents, we can't help but worry." Their faces were worn, anxious, full of love. And that made it harder, because I knew they weren't wrong. Everything they said came from love. But to give up Charles Newton because of that fear? I couldn't. "I'm sorry, Mom. Dad." My voice was shaking. "I can't." Mom gave a wet, trembling smile. "You and your sister, once you make up your minds, no one can stop you. We just needed to say our piece. We won't force you to do anything. As long as you don't regret it," she said softly. Charles Newton woke up the next afternoon. When his eyes fluttered open, they were unfocused, dazed. Then he saw me and tried to smile. It tugged at his injuries and pain twisted his face. "Don't move," I scolded, holding him down. "How do you feel?" "I'm fine," his voice was hoarse. Then he frowned. "Baby, your eyes, why are they swollen?" I glared at him, handing him a cup of warm water. "From crying. You got a problem with that." He took a few obedient sips, eyes still on me. "Don't worry. I'm really fine." He hesitated. "Actually, there's something I want to talk to you about." My heart sank. "Please don't say we should break up. Please don't." "What is it?" "I've been thinking. I want to transition." "Transition?" I repeated blankly. "Yeah," he nodded. "From fighter to coach. Williams has been looking for a successor for a while. After the last few matches, and now this injury, I think it's time." He squeezed my hand, firm and warm. "You're serious? You won't regret it? You're only 23, Charles. Retiring already?" He smiled faintly and cut me off. When I started fighting, it was just to survive, and to repay Coach Williams for taking me in. I've won enough titles. His name's gold in the circuit now, and I've saved enough money. There's nothing to regret. Then he chuckled softly. Besides, I want to be with you for a long, long time. I'm not letting you turn into a little widower. I laughed through tears and smacked his arm. Asshole. Who's the widower here? During Charles Newton's hospitalization, James Bennett came by a few times. Charles told him about the plan to step back from competition. James was quiet for a long time before he said simply, "If that's what you've decided, then do it." His face was unreadable behind those gold-rimmed glasses. But for some reason he looked sad. Then he turned to me. "George Horton, can we talk?" Charles blinked, puzzled. "But can't I listen?" He really had no idea James liked him. I patted his head. "Secret talk. You're not allowed." "Oh," he said, visibly deflated. Outside the room, I faced James, irritation prickling in my chest. "You're not here to tell me to leave him again, are you?" "No," he said quietly. "Just one question. The Charles Newton you love now, he's no longer the celebrated champion. He's just a man with injuries, a man who'll need care and time to recover. He might even become a burden. Your parents, your family, your friends, even strangers, will all question you, pressure you, tell you it's not worth it. Can you say, with absolute certainty, that you'll never waver under that pressure? That you'll stay with him?" I felt anger surge. Who was he to assume my family would judge me? Who was he to measure my love like that? "My family loves me," I said, voice cold. "They respect me. They won't pressure me. So no, your premise doesn't hold. And as for Charles, I love him. Not the champion, not the fighter, not the glory. Just him. No matter who he is or what he becomes." James let out a small, broken laugh. "I see, so that's what it means. That's how it should be." He exhaled softly, almost like he'd been holding his breath for years. "Sorry," he said. "I asked because Charles reminds me of my brother. They were so alike, both sincere, both all heart, both the kind who love too much." His eyes dimmed. "But two men. That road is brutal. My brother loved someone who couldn't love him back. The rumors, the shame, it killed him." He looked up, voice low, steady, filled with grief. "I just don't want Charles to end up the same way." "Charles isn't your brother," I said quietly. "And I'm not the bastard who broke his heart." "I know." He gave a bitter, fragile smile. "That's why I'm apologizing." And in that moment, I finally understood. He wasn't testing me. He was hoping for an answer his brother never got. The day Charles Newton was discharged from the hospital, my sister called with news. They had found Kate Nielsen. She had fallen off a cliff while covering her team's retreat, critically injured. A local herdsman had discovered her and taken her in. Because the area was remote and communication had been cut off, the rescue team didn't locate her until recently. She was now in a military hospital. Her life wasn't in danger anymore, but recovery would take time. My sister sobbed on the phone, her tears full of relief and joy. Our parents, who had been worried sick, finally relaxed a little. "Today really is a double blessing," Mom said. She pulled a brand new protective charm from her bag and placed it into Charles Newton's hands. "I got one for you and one for Kate. No need to win anymore, okay? Just stay safe. That's all I ask." They didn't know yet that Charles had decided to retire. He stared at the charm, stunned, then looked at me. His eyes turned red almost instantly. "Thank you, Auntie," he choked. "Thank you." Dad patted him on the shoulder. "All right, tough guy, no more tears. Let's go. Your auntie made soup at home to help you get your strength back." The sunlight spilled over us, warm and golden. Once he was fully recovered, Charles Newton entered the ring for the last match of his career. He won, clean and decisive. The crowd erupted, screaming his name over and over. It was his moment. His glory. He raised his championship belt high. Then, as the spotlights poured down and countless cameras clicked, his eyes found mine in the crowd. And under all that attention, he took the mic. I, Charles Newton, hereby officially announce my retirement. The entire stadium went into a frenzy. My parents froze in shock. Fighting was my dream. I've fought hard and earned my honors. But now, I've found someone more important to protect. This belt marks the end of my career, but also the beginning of something new. I'll continue to dedicate myself to the sport I love, just in a different way. He turned to me, beaming, goofy and sincere. The crowd's murmurs swelled like a tide, then slowly ebbed. Every light, every camera remained trained on Charles Newton. He stood in the ring, glistening with sweat under the harsh lights, looking like he was wrapped in stardust. Then he set the mic down and stepped out of the ring, walking straight toward me. The audience parted for him, instinctively making way for the champion who had just stepped down. His eyes never left mine. Focused, determined. I stood there, unmoving. He stopped in front of me, took a shaky breath. I probably won't be famous anymore. No more prize money. I'll just be a regular coach now. Did you still want me? This idiot. He'd given up the stage, the spotlight, everything, for me. And now, he was scared I wouldn't want him? My chest felt too full. Like something sweet and sharp had lodged itself in my heart. I took a step forward and, with everyone watching, reporters, fans, strangers, I reached up and wiped the sweat from his jaw. I've always wanted Charles Newton, I said. Not the champion version. He blinked, stunned. Then he pulled me into his arms and hugged me tight. Around us, the arena erupted with cheers, whistles, and the rapid-fire clicks of camera shutters. A month later, my sister and Kate Nielsen returned from the military hospital. Mom burst into tears at the sight of their pale, thinner faces. She immediately whipped up a huge feast full of restorative dishes. At the table, my sister recounted what she'd been through. Kate simply gave a brief overview of the mission, skipping past any classified parts. They spoke lightly, but my parents' hearts ached. Auntie, Uncle. Kate put down her chopsticks, her expression serious. This injury made me rethink a lot. I know the nature of my job puts stress on the people I love. So this time, I'm not just back to recover. I also came back to tell you that I've applied to transfer out of the front lines. I want to teach at the military academy or move to logistics. I've already submitted the request. My sister looked stunned. Clearly, she hadn't heard a word about this before now. My parents sat in silence for a long moment. Then Dad sighed. You and Charles, you don't need to give up your dreams just to gain our approval. Kate shook her head. No, Uncle. It's not like that. I just want to build a home with Belle. A real home. One where we can see each other more than twice a year. One where she doesn't have to stay up every night worrying I won't come back. Charles added quietly, I'd been thinking about retiring for a while now. All right. Mom wiped her eyes and placed the biggest shrimp into each of their bowls. No more dwelling on the past. From now on, just live well. Charles Newton's new coaching career didn't start smoothly. Even though Coach Williams personally recommended him as his successor, some board members weren't thrilled. They think, Charles told me one night, that my private life might damage the club's image and affect sponsorship deals. To be continued. Let me know if you'd like to continue with Chapter 30. James Bennett's words sent a chill through me. Charles Newton's expression darkened. James, this is my private life. It has nothing to do with my professional abilities. I know, James said calmly, but capital and markets don't see it that way. Especially after the way you publicly announced your reason for retirement, many conservative sponsors are now hesitating. He paused, then added, unless you're willing to make a few adjustments in your public image. The implication in that sentence couldn't have been more obvious. The air went still, heavy with silence. Then Charles Newton suddenly smiled. James, he said, voice light but firm, thank the board for their concern. And thank Coach Williams for his trust. He stood, reached out and held my hand. I, Charles Newton, might not be fighting anymore, but I'm not spineless. If the cost of success is compromising myself and the one I love, then I don't need that kind of success. I'll pass on being head coach. James didn't look surprised. He was silent for a few seconds, then let out a quiet laugh, like a weight had been lifted. "Good," he said. Then he pulled out a folder and handed it to Charles. "This is my personal investment, and every resource I can tap into. New club. You bring the skills, I bring the capital. You're the head coach. And co-owner." "James." James Bennett smiled faintly. "If my brother had even half your strength or luck, maybe things would have turned out differently for him. I've laid the foundation. The rest is up to you." He walked to the door, paused, then glanced back. "Charles, don't make me lose money." The new club was underway. Charles Newton was constantly busy, racing from one thing to the next. But he looked energized every day, like he had an endless reservoir of fuel. James Bennett kept his word. The funding and support came quickly, and his sharp business instincts surprised us all. The parts Charles struggled with, James resolved with a single call. Sometimes I stopped by the site during renovations. Without fail, I'd find Charles hauling equipment with the workers, face smudged with dust, beaming like a 200-pound child. He'd point to the vast, empty training floor, eyes lit up. "One day, this place is gonna raise champions. A lot of them." And I believed him. That night, we went to my parents' place for dinner. Afterward, Dad and Charles Newton played chess on the balcony. My sister and Kate Nielsen sat in the living room, flipping through proofs of their pre-wedding shoot. They decided to have a small ceremony in Iceland at the end of the year. Mom and I sat beside them, offering opinions on dresses and flowers. She was smiling the entire time. "There was a time," she said, "when I used to hope you'd both follow the path of least resistance. But now I understand, the best road is the one you choose for yourself, the one that makes you happy. As long as you're healthy, and the person by your side truly cherishes you, nothing else matters." From the balcony came Charles Newton's groan of frustration. "Uncle, wait. That move doesn't count. I want a do-over." Dad's hearty laugh rang out. "No takebacks. And you're a terrible player, Charles." The sunset poured in through the window, casting a soft, golden glow over everything and everyone. Charles Newton once said, "There are other ways to keep doing what you love. Other ways to protect the people you want to protect. Other ways to build a home. And home has never had just one definition. Love is the only one that matters." The end.
Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos.